The story begins with Furuya Chihiro, a high school student with an unusual obsession with zombies. He has always desired to meet a zombie girl to express his deep-seated emotions, even though he can't fully explain his fantasies. A very questionable taste indeed. After completing his classes, Furuya returns to Shuryu Temple, his family's historical temple and residence. At the dinner table, Furuya introduces his small family, consisting of his grandfather Jaguru, his father Don, the current head priest of the temple, his 12-year-old sister Miro, and Babu, a stray cat they found in the temple. Everything seems to be going well until one day, tragedy strikes when Babu dies in a terrible accident, leaving the household in grief. Struggling to cope with the loss, Furuya retrieves a dusty book he discovered last year during a visit to a relative. Although the local museum considered the book worthless, Furuya knows its manuscript on the art of resurrection. Determined, he digs up Babu's grave and takes him to a remote location. Performing the ritual described in the book, Furuya then resumes his daily life. The next day, while walking to school, Furuya's friends express their longing for female companionship since they attend an all-boys school. Their excitement grows when they learn that Senka-ria, a beautiful young girl, and the principal's daughter, has enrolled in the neighboring Senka Academy. At the temple, Furuya's cousin Ranko, a second-year student at Senka Academy, visits to lift Furuya's spirits. Things get awkward when Furuya inquires about Senka-ria. After teasing him for a while, Ranko borrows a zombie DVD from Furuya and departs. Late at night, Furuya returns to his secret hideout. Unfortunately, he struggles to read a page of the resurrection book. However, he deduces that a poisonous herb is required for the resurrection ritual, though he can't determine the exact herb. Suddenly, Senka-ria appears at the deserted location, passionately confessing her bottled-up feelings. She realizes he has been secretly listening to her confessions day after day. To change the subject, Furuya discloses his attempts to revive Babu, but warns that Babu will likely return as a zombie, condemning him to an eternal existence. Surprisingly, Ria disagrees with Furuya's perspective. Inside the hideout, Furuya admits that he would only consider dating a zombie girl, revealing his peculiar preference. Ria finds this proposition intriguing and offers to become a zombie for the sake of Furuya's dream. Another night begins at the hideout, and Furuya decides to introduce Ria to the world of zombies. He chooses a hardcore and graphic zombie movie, expecting Ria to be shocked. However, to his surprise, the sheltered princess enjoys this kind of content. Meanwhile, Furuya continues his experiments with various poisonous herbs found in their town, hoping to create a reanimating potion. He has already tried all the locally available herbs. Suddenly thundersticks, triggering Ria's memory of a herb that Furuya hasn't tested yet. Determined to find it, Ria sets off on a quest, reflecting on her childhood along the way. She recalls how her maids were frequently changed due to minor mistakes and how she was forbidden from getting close to animals to maintain cleanliness. On her birthdays, her father took inappropriate pictures in the name of measuring her growth, while her mother seemed to resent her for unknown reasons. Ria came to believe that everyone concealed their pain behind their beautiful smiles. It wasn't until middle school that she made her first friend, approved by her father due to their privileged background. Spending time with her friend made Ria realize that her friend was genuinely happy, while she continued to hide her true self behind a smile. One day, at her friend's house, Ria confided in her about her situation. Her friend advised her to stand up against her father's requests, even if it caused a fight. In the present, Furuya grows concerned about Ria's well-being and decides to run an errand. To his shock, he discovers Ria hanging over the edge of a cliff and swiftly rushes to save her. Once they reach the hideout, Ria reveals that she spotted a peculiar flower blooming in the graveyard, which prompted her to take the longer route up the slope. Furuya scolds her for her recklessness, but Ria remains steadfast, demanding that Furuya bring her back to life if she ever dies. Later, Ria recalls an incident where her father forcefully made her friend's family relocate to a remote location with a no-pet policy. Before leaving, her friend confesses that being her friend was the worst thing that ever happened to her. Back at her house, Ria's father blackmails her into accepting his love, warning that many others would be unhappy if she didn't comply. As a result, Ria continues her routine year after year. Back at the hideout, Furuya uses the petals of the flower Ria found to create a new potion. However, their hopes are shattered when they discover that even this last poison is ineffective. Frustrated, Furuya decides to give up, and they both head back home. Later, at the temple, Furuya encounters Ranko waiting for him. She questions him about his recent endeavors, but Furuya remains tight-lipped. In a surprising turn of events, Ranko forcibly opens a cooler, and a cat unexpectedly leaps out of the box. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Furuya, Ria secretly consumes the potion to end her own life. Ria's father becomes enraged and slaps her upon catching her sneaking out in the middle of the night. He confronts her, forbidding her from leaving the house, even for school. Feeling hopeless, Ria decides to take the poison. However, she wakes up the next day, realizing the poison has failed. She puts on a fake smile and goes to apologize to her parents, pretending to feel remorse for her actions. Later, she overhears her father discussing castrating Furuya for touching her. Meanwhile, at the temple, Furuya explains his project to Miro and Ranko, causing them to question his morals. Ranko warns Furuya about the potential danger of Babu attacking innocent people and turning them into zombies. But Furuya dismisses her concerns, believing that such things only happen in movies. Meanwhile, Babu manages to escape, prompting Ranka and Furuya to chase after him. Back at the temple, Miro informs her grandfather about Furuya's latest actions, but he remains unfazed for unknown reasons. While Ranka and Furuya chase Babu through the streets, Babu eludes Furuya every time he tries to catch him. It's a situation they have never encountered before. Eventually, Babu jumps into a dark hole. Despite Ranka's warnings, Furuya jumps in after him, with Ranka close behind. After following Babu for a while, they end up at the hideout. On the other hand, Ria disregards her father's warnings and leaves the house to save Furuya from being castrated. Although her mother notices her actions, she inexplicably chooses to ignore them and keeps them from Ria's father. Ria goes to Furuya's school to gather information about his whereabouts from his friends, but her efforts prove futile as they are unaware of his location. To make matters worse, her father discovers that Ria has snuck out once again, and he orders his men to monitor her every move. At the hideout, Furuya finds Babu in the hydrangea field, feasting on their leaves. Meanwhile, he notices Ria and her father arguing at the top of the cliff. Ria asserts that she is not a doll to be kept secluded from the world. She is a human being who deserves her freedom. At that moment, Babu climbs the cliff and approaches Ria, causing chaos due to her father's allergies to stray animals. He tries to kill Babu but accidentally pushes Ria off the cliff, leading to her sudden death. Devastated by the tragic sight before him, Furuya desperately pleads for Ria to wake up. He remembers when Ria asked him to revive her as a zombie, but this time, he refuses to let his selfishness dictate his decisions. He chooses not to revive Ria to protect her soul. At that moment, Ria regains consciousness and asks Furuya to take care of her. After being brought back to life, Ria gathers the courage to approach her father and reveal the truth. She explains that she no longer feels like his daughter and cannot remain a part of their family. With her statements made, she walks away, accompanied by Furuya. Meanwhile, upon returning home, Ria's father sinks into sadness in the bathroom, while her mother is informed of the situation by the maids. Worried, she rushes to the bathroom, only to discover that Ria had fallen off a cliff but miraculously stood up as if nothing had happened. Ria chooses Furuya over her father, and when her mother learns the whole story, she becomes deeply concerned about her position as the chairman of Senka Academy. At the same time, her father decides to seek revenge on Furuya for taking his daughter away. At the temple, Ria nonchalantly stitches her skin with Furuya's assistance. She reveals that her school begins with sewing practice to enhance students' mental concentration. Furuya becomes frustrated with Ria's calm demeanor and reminds her that she no longer has a pulse or the ability to experience emotions. Despite the hardships she faced that day, Ria feels excited about the future. As they enjoy the beautiful sunset through the window, Ria discloses her ability to understand Babu's communication. Meanwhile, Furuya is surprised that Ria hasn't changed at all after becoming a zombie. She still acts like the innocent girl she once was. Confused, Furuya once again questions Ria about her serenity. In response, she explains that all her worries have vanished because Furuya will take care of her. She expresses her desire to do ordinary things that girls do, such as shopping, going to the movies, and visiting amusement parks. This notion slightly ruins the romantic atmosphere as Ranko arrives at the temple to confront Furuya for leaving her in a difficult situation earlier. Furuya leads Ranko to a nearby river to have a conversation and apologize for his previous actions, admitting that he was unaware of her circumstances. Later, his friends approach him and inquire about his relationship with Ria, which raises concerns for Ranko. After resolving everything, Furuya returns home only to find Ria slumped on the floor, her speech slurring. Initially, he assumes it's due to her sudden awakening, but soon realizes that Ria's body is starting to decompose, and her flesh will rot within a few months. Determined to find a way to halt the decomposition, Furuya embarks on a quest to enable Ria to experience the life of an ordinary girl. Later that night, Furuya tucks Ria into his own bed. However, as he tries to fall asleep in another room, the tense anticipation of the future keeps his mind occupied, making it difficult for him to find rest. He is constantly consumed by thoughts of how to preserve Ria's body. The following day, Furuya wakes up early and approaches his sister to inquire about a recent medical book she had been reading on the subject of preserving human bodies after death. She informs him that she has lent the book to her classmates, raising Miro's suspicions upon hearing his question. Meanwhile, Furuya returns to his room, contemplating where he should hide Ria. After some consideration, he decides to conceal her in his closet, and then heads downstairs to begin his daily routine at the breakfast table. On the other hand, Ranko pays a visit to the Senka house for a delivery. Surprisingly, she stumbles upon Ria's classmates hiding in the bushes, seeking answers about her whereabouts. Ranko informs them that there was an unidentified disturbance in the house, further fueling their suspicions. As they take a walk together, Ria's classmates proudly display the beautiful pictures she had taken and express their admiration for her, considering her a perfect girl whom everyone in school wants to be friends with. Meanwhile, Furuya decides to skip school and assists Miro with cleaning the house. He diligently mops the floor and tidies up every corner. During this time, his father asks him about the new cat and advises him to properly mourn Babu's passing. In response, Furuya reveals that Babu has come back to life. To verify his claim, he visits his grandfather, who immediately acknowledges that Babu is indeed alive. Strangely, his grandfather mentions that his reanimation potion should be renowned worldwide, leaving Furuya in a state of distress. Furuya attempts to further question his grandfather to unravel the secrets of the potion, but he feigns ignorance and goes off to take a bath. After finishing the house cleaning, Miro offers to thoroughly clean Furuya's room, but he declines, stating that he enjoys cleaning, which only raises Miro's suspicions. Furuya believes that his situation cannot worsen, but then Ranko arrives and shares exclusive information she obtained about Ria running away from home. Ranko speculates that Ria must have eloped with her lover. After a brief conversation, Ranko leaves for work but stops by Furuya's room to borrow some zombie movies. To her surprise, she discovers Ria in the closet, who attempts to devour her whole. Ranko panics and screams at the top of her lungs, causing the entire family to hear her. Furuya, upon hearing the scream, quickly realizes something is wrong and rushes to his room. When he enters, he finds Ranko and Ria together. At first, Ranko assumes that Ria is seeking refuge at Furuya's place to escape her own home. However, as she observes Ria's behavior, she soon realizes that Ria has been turned into a zombie. Ranko becomes furious, accusing Furuya of being a psychopath and blaming him for the demise of a sweet girl like Ria. In her anger, she starts throwing things at Furuya in an attempt to make him see reason. Furuya tries to calm her down by explaining that the entire situation was an accident, but Ranko, consumed by her anger, refuses to listen. Eventually, Furuya manages to calm the situation and asks Ranko to bring his grandfather from the bath. Meanwhile, Ria escapes through the window, compelling Furuya to chase after her. Unfortunately, their encounter is interrupted by Dawn, who discovers Furuya crawling on the rooftop. In order to avoid suspicion, Furuya makes a few excuses and narrowly avoids trouble. Later, Furuya finds Ria eating hydrangea leaves. After observing her for a while, he notices her eyes gradually returning to normal. Just then, Ranko interrupts with their grandfather riding on her back. He praises Furuya for bringing the dead back to life, but also delivers a heartbreaking reality. While eating hydrangea leaves can slow down the decomposition process, it cannot stop it completely as he never perfected the reanimation potion. He provides Furuya with some tips to delay the process, including consuming hydrangea leaves, staying hydrated, and exercising. The commotion attracts Dawn's attention, and he arrives to find Ria. He questions Furuya about the girl, and in his confused state, Furuya claims she is a friend planning to stay at the temple. He pleads with his father to let Ria stay with them, and after some consideration, Dawn agrees, stating that the temple is a safe haven for everyone. Meanwhile, Ranko feels incredibly jealous after witnessing Furuya's caring behavior towards Ria. During the night, Furuya begins keeping a written log to document Ria's daily condition. However, Ria interrupts his work and invites him to sleep in the bedroom with her. The two spend a tender and intimate night together, engaging in heartfelt conversations. The next morning, Furuya starts recording Ria's every move to maintain a video log, further aiding his research on preserving her body. At the breakfast table, the family enjoys their meal while Ria remains tucked away in her room, not wanting to be a financial burden. In reality, her metabolism is no longer functioning. Later, Ranko visits and brings fresh clothes for Ria. Meanwhile, Furuya carries a heavy burden of guilt for turning Ria into a lifeless being. To make amends, he takes her on a stroll, during which Ria expresses her gratitude for meeting Furuya and becoming a zombie. As Ranko takes a solitary stroll through the quiet night, memories of her past flood her mind. She vividly recalls the days when she tirelessly assisted at her family's restaurant, where her father worked as the head chef and her mother managed the place. Every Sunday, their friend Furuya would drop by to lend a helping hand. Ranko's thoughts then turned to the first time she met Furuya, introduced as his cousin. Instantly, they formed a strong bond. However, everything changed when Furuya revealed his intense fascination with zombie movies. He excitedly invited Ranko to his room to watch a hardcore zombie flick, which terrified her to the core. Annoyed and frightened, Ranko promptly switched off the TV, demanding they engage in outdoor activities instead. The pair embarked on a leisurely stroll in the park, where Furuya disclosed his singular love for zombie movies, zombie magazines, and food. Eventually, they found themselves in a beautiful flower field. To Ranko's surprise, Furuya began digging, hoping to unearth a zombie. Suddenly, a group of bullies arrived at the park, mocking Furuya for playing with a girl. Devastated by their hurtful comments, Furuya fled to a nearby graveyard, tears streaming down his face. In just one afternoon, Ranko's charming prince had transformed into a peculiar zombie-loving oddball. In the present day, Ranko and Furuya work together to make deliveries for her family's restaurant across town. As they walk through the bustling streets, Furuya's father unexpectedly encounters them. He scolds Furuya for his laziness and advises Ranko to work him tirelessly. However, Furuya's constant worry for Ria's well-being leaves Ranko feeling jealous. Playfully, she teases Furuya about his concerns, but he adamantly denies her claims. Meanwhile, Furuya's classmates spot him with Ranko, sparking envy among them. An argument erupts over Furuya's recent adventures with Ranko and Ria. In the midst of it all, a wave of nostalgia washes over Ranko, transporting her back to the past. After their initial meeting, Ranko returned to her hometown. Fate brought them together again after 2 years, thanks to certain family circumstances. Ranko's family had relocated their business near the Shiryu Temple. However, their reunion didn't quite live up to her expectations. Furuya remained unchanged, and his obsession with zombies had only intensified. On the other hand, Ranko's once budding crush on Furuya had dissipated. Nevertheless, she continued her efforts to befriend him, driven by her mother's fondness for Furuya. Determined to spend time together, Ranko decided to take Furuya to a DVD store to rent the latest anime. However, Furuya had other plans in mind and headed straight for the horror section, eager to grab another zombie movie. A heated argument ensued between them during their walk back, prompting Ranko to return the movie to the store. To make matters worse, a stray dog blocked Ranko's path, triggering her panic and trembling in fear. Surprisingly, Furuya bravely armed himself with a pipe and confronted the dog, mustering up the courage to protect her. In the evening, hand in hand, they returned home, a bond forming between them. Back in the present, Ranko and Furuya complete their deliveries. Suddenly, an impulsive urge overcomes Ranko, and she leans in to kiss Furuya. However, upon witnessing his reaction, she becomes infuriated and runs away in anger. The next day, Furuya begins his usual daily routine with his family, but this time, Ria is by his side. She informs Dawn that she follows a vegetarian diet, but in truth, hydrangea leaves are the only sustenance she needs. Meanwhile, Furuya keeps a constant watch over her every move, leading to some significant discoveries. The most important revelation is that Ria doesn't require sleep or have the need to use the restroom. While she still takes baths out of habit, her body no longer sweats. Suddenly, Babu regurgitates a ball of undigested hydrangea leaves, leaving Furuya wondering if Ria would do the same. Gradually, Ria becomes annoyed by Furuya's constant surveillance. She expresses her desire to experience things that normal girls do. The following day, Furuya fulfills Ria's request and takes her on a trip to the mall. She becomes instantly excited and begins selecting outfits to buy. Meanwhile, Furuya secretly records her actions from a distance, contemplating whether he's doing it for the sake of research or to preserve her memories. Ria continues to choose outfits with a radiant smile on her face. Meanwhile, Ranko visits a bathhouse feeling down. Her mind is consumed by thoughts of Furuya and his focus on Ria. After a long bath, Ranko heads outside and bumps into Miro and her friends. The four girls engage in a brief gossip and decide to bathe together. Back at the mall, Ria finally settles on a cute outfit for herself, earning a discreet compliment from Furuya. They find a seat at a table, where Furuya surprises Ria with a dress that can hold dry ice to help sustain her when they go outside. Touched by his thoughtfulness, Ria sheds tears, only to realize that zombies are incapable of producing tears. Meanwhile, Ria's father locates them in the mall and orders his men to execute Furuya, aiming to put an end to Ria's counterfeit freedom. As Furuya goes to grab a bite to eat, the men take the opportunity to strike. The three kidnappers try to snatch Ria, but her overwhelming strength allows her to overpower them instantly. In the meantime, Furuya notices that Ria has disappeared and rushes towards the exit, only to find Ria standing over the incapacitated kidnappers. He soon realizes that they were sent by Ria's father. With the situation spiraling out of control, the men switch to Plan B and abduct Furuya. They inform Ria's father about the situation, and he orders his men to bring Furuya to him unharmed for a personal conversation. Back at the temple, Dawn engages in a discussion with Miro about Furuya's maturity. Initially, Dawn was skeptical about allowing Ria to live with their family at the temple. However, witnessing Furuya's hard work and persistence has changed his perspective. Miro agrees with her father's assessment of Furuya's growth and recalls the sleepless nights he spent trying to find a way to preserve Ria's decaying body. After completing her chores, Miro visits her classmate Ikki's house. They engage in a conversation about zombies taking over the world, as Ikki shares his beliefs with Miro and their friend Miko. Ikki claims that Miko has been deceived, and he opens the window to yell that zombies are real, and the government is trying to hide the truth. All of his beliefs have been shaped by internet sources. Listening to his story, Miko argues that they would have seen zombies if they were real. This leads Ikki to reveal that their art teacher, Yamanouchi-sensei, is a zombie. He explains that one day, after class, he went to the fine arts room to retrieve something he had forgotten. That's when he discovered Yamanouchi-sensei feeding something a bloody piece of raw meat, raising suspicions about her true nature. Miro interjects, adding to the conversation by mentioning that she suspects there might be a living thing in Yamanouchi-sensei's bag. Miko adds that the teacher has been acting strangely lately. After a brief discussion, the three kids decide to uncover the truth about Yamanouchi-sensei as the official zombie hunters. The official zombie hunters embark on their first mission, secretly spying on Yamanouchi-sensei to find out what she carries in her bag. After waiting for a while, they observe Yamanouchi-sensei feeding the mysterious entity. Unfortunately, their cover is blown, and Yamanouchi-sensei takes the three kids in her car. She reveals that she actually has a pet alligator. Due to her constant worry, she always keeps the alligator with her and feeds it after school. Peak creativeness to keep an alligator as a pet. Disappointed by the revelation, the group returns home. Ikki tries to find more zombie sightings but has no luck. To lighten the mood, Miko shares a strange experience. She recounts smelling someone boiling human flesh while walking home. Following the scent, she arrived in a backyard where she found a couple. The couple explained that they were creating ramen for their new restaurant, and despite the smell, it tasted delicious. Hesitantly, Miko tried the ramen and instantly fell in love with it. Ikki grows frustrated as Miko's story has nothing to do with zombies. At the park, Miro reveals that there has been a zombie living in their house for the past few days. However, Ikki refuses to believe her. Miro bids farewell to her friends and sets off to buy groceries. On her way, she recalls the only memory she has of her mother. After finishing with the groceries, Miro visits the cemetery to make an offering to her mother. Unexpectedly, she encounters Ria, who reminds her of her mother. Back at the mall, Furuya finds himself taken to the Senka household, where he is held captive for unknown reasons. He encounters a maid who brings him a drink but ignores his pleas for help. Feeling trapped with no escape, Furuya resorts to screaming at the top of his lungs. Suddenly, Ria's mother, Aria, appears before him. At first, she mistakes Furuya for Ria's babysitter and questions his close relationship with her daughter. Furuya dismisses her outrageous claims, insisting that Ria is not that type of girl. However, Arya refuses to listen and speculates that Furuya must now despise Rhea since she has become a zombie and lost her beauty. Arya's hurtful words make Furuya question her relationship with Rhea. It is then that Arya reveals that Rhea is her stepdaughter and Arya herself is the second wife of Rhea's father, Senka Danakairu. She proceeds to explain the customs of the Senka family. Many maids from esteemed backgrounds were selected as potential marriage candidates, and only those who met the criteria were allowed to work in the household. These maids would throw themselves at Danakairu in hopes of becoming a part of the Senka family, but his stubborn nature remained unaffected, showing no interest whatsoever. Years later, Danakairu entered college, and it was during that time that Arya became a maid in the Senka household. Previous maids warned her that the young master seemed disinterested in women, but Arya was confident that no man could resist her charm. She observed Danakairu's daily habits and performed her tasks with precision timing. However, despite her efforts, Danakairu remained uninterested in Arya as well. Everything changed during the annual fencing tournament held by the Senka family, where many disabled locals and guests were invited as spectators. After a series of matches, Danakairu emerged victorious after a tough struggle. But then, he accused his opponent of holding back without realizing that the entire tournament had been fixed from the beginning. After the tournament, a young disabled girl approached Danakairu, praising his hard work and advising him to value his accomplishments. Unexpectedly, everything shifted as Danakairu found himself drawn to her. The most shocking event in Senka family history occurred when Danakairu proposed to the young 15-year-old girl, turning the whole family upside down. Despite opposition from the entire Senka family, Danakairu used his power and married her immediately. Sadly, the girl passed away shortly after giving birth to Rhea. The trauma was overwhelming for Danakairu, rendering him helpless. Gradually, with Arya's support, Danakairu regained his strength, leading to their marriage. However, the sad reality was that Danakairu never paid attention to Arya's desires. She repeatedly failed to earn his love, and one fateful day, she discovered Danakairu's true nature and the inappropriate things he had done to his daughter, fueling her deep resentment. Their conversation is interrupted by a maid who takes Furuya away to meet Rhea's father. Meanwhile, Rhea takes a taxi to make her way to the Senka family. After attending to his needs, Furuya is taken to the dojo where Danakairu reveals his intention to engage in a fencing duel with him to assess his abilities. Meanwhile, Rhea arrives at the mansion and confronts two maids who immediately take her into custody. They lead her to a secret room where they insist on dressing her up in various outfits of their choosing. As the duel between Furuya and Danakairu reaches its climax, Danakairu sets a simple condition. Furuya must land a single hit to win. He is allowed to employ any martial arts or sword style he possesses. Embarrassingly, Furuya confesses that he lacks any martial arts or sword techniques, which only infuriates Danakairu further. Danakairu fails to understand why Rhea would choose such a weak man who cannot even defend himself. In response to his comments, Furuya bursts into laughter, claiming that Danakairu is a self-centered person who only thinks of himself and doesn't care about his daughter at all. Furuya points out that Danakairu has gambled his daughter's fate on a fencing duel, and his inappropriate behavior would drive any child away since it goes far beyond parental love. Danakairu does not take kindly to Furuya's words and, consumed by anger, stabs Furuya in the abdomen. Simultaneously, Rhea manages to break free from the head maid's grasp, utilizing her superior strength. She rushes to the dojo only to discover Furuya's injured state. However, Furuya retaliates by delivering a powerful headbutt to Danakairu, catching him off guard. Furuya explains that his pain receptors have been paralyzed, transforming him into a half-zombie due to Rhea licking his wounds. Frustrated, Danakairu attempts to sever Furuya's head, but before he can do so, Rhea intervenes. Despite everything, Danakairu remains obstinate and refuses to listen to reason. This compels Furuya to resort to his last option and reveal that from the beginning, his daughter desired to live as a normal girl. Furuya's words strike Danakairu like a bolt of lightning, causing him to entrust Rhea to Furuya's care while he embarks on a journey overseas to search for a cure for her mysterious condition. Soon after, Furuya regains his sense of pain, and the maids attend to his wounds. Meanwhile, Ranko pays a visit to check on Furuya. She mischievously introduces herself as his human fiancé, teasing him playfully, and they all share a laugh together. Furuya and the others continue with their daily lives, but for Furuya, things are far from normal. He is constantly preoccupied with finding a way to preserve Rhea's body, and the responsibility he carries to protect her from harm. During dinner, Dan questions Ria's unusual diet of hydrangea leaves, which raises another red flag for Furuya. In the middle of the night, Furuya apologizes to Ria for not being able to take her to many places due to her condition. To his surprise, Ria expresses gratitude for all his efforts. She then asks Furuya to take her to see the fireworks, as they are held at night. Considering everything, Furuya agrees to her request, and Ria becomes excited like a child going to a toy store. While entering the house, Furuya encounters Miro, who asks why he refuses to let Ria attend school. Furuya tries to dodge the question by stating it's for Ria's health, but Miro reveals that Ria was envious of her for being able to go to school. This statement further makes Furuya question his choices. The following day, the weather changes, and heavy rain forces the cancellation of the fireworks display. Furuya apologizes to Ria for not being able to fulfill her wish. The next day, Furuya goes to school and meets up with his friends. Later, he bumps into Ranka, and they plan to have a fireworks display at the temple. Excitedly, Furuya heads home early and shares the good news. In the evening, Ranka arrives with the fireworks and lends Ria her yukata to wear for the occasion. Ranka helps Ria put on the yukata, and the two engage in a heartfelt conversation about Furuya's behavior. During their talk, Ria reveals that her condition might not last much longer. However, Ranka insists that Furuya will find a way to keep Ria's body healthy because he would be lonely without her. As night falls, the fireworks begin. Inspired, Ria decides to go to school to become a normal girl. The next day, she heads to the Senka household to gather all of her stuff. Upon entering the mansion, she meets the housemaids. After gathering her stuff, Ria unexpectedly encounters Aria, who reminds her that she would not help Ria at the Senka Academy any longer. After having a brief discussion, Ria leaves the house with Furuya and gets ready for school as a zombie.